Dear all, many thanks for joining this webinar. We have now more than 100 participants and we believe that much more will join in the next minutes. Today we have 3 speakers, and our first speaker today is Vincent Ripoc from CAMS, who will give a presentation about solar radiation products. Then it will be followed by his colleague Stein Vermooth, who will give a presentation about sustainability and renewable energy, at the end of which we will have a Q&A session in order for you to address the different questions you might have after the presentation and regarding the module as well. And our last speaker is Gilles Liscano from Vortex, and he will give a presentation about climate scale and Vortex. And there will be also a Q&A session at the end of this presentation. So Vincent-Henri, you can now activate your camera and your microphone, and you can start your presentation.
Hi, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. It's very impressive to see all the hello coming from all across the world. So I'm very pleased to be here to give you a little more information about the solar radiation products that we are developing as part of the Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Service, or CAMS in short. I'm Vincent Ripoc. I'm the director of CAMS. I work at the European Center for Medium Range Weather Forecast, and I would like to acknowledge 2 colleagues, Etienne Way from Transvalor and Marion Schröder-Homscheid from DLR, from France respectively and Germany, who are in charge of this part of the CAMS portfolio. Before going into deeper into my presentation, I thought it would be a good idea to start with a little movie to recap a little bit on different topics that I covered in the MOOC, and refresh everybody about the fact that atmospheric composition is essential when one wants to estimate radiation coming at the surface. So this is a movie that has been done in the framework of a Horizon 2020 project called eShape, which is one of the users of CAMS solar radiation products. So sit back, relax, and I will launch now the movie.
The sun is the primary natural source of energy. 1 hour of solar radiation at the top of the atmosphere is greater than our annual global energy consumption. Our photon is now at the top of the atmosphere. It will interact with the atmosphere that may absorb or scatter it, potentially preventing it from reaching the ground. UV high-energy photons are partly absorbed by the ozone and impact human and animal health. Australia's proximity to the equator, combined with fair-skinned population, means a danger of skin diseases. Australian government agencies, the Bureau of Meteorology, and ARPANSA use CAMS UV service. They've developed a smartphone application called SunSmart, reaching nearly 500,000 downloads. If not absorbed or deviated by scattering, our photon may contribute to solar energy. Even with a clear atmosphere, gases, water vapor, and aerosols can absorb and scatter our photon. The CAMS Clear service predicts clear sky surface solar irradiance worldwide. It accounts for over 200 registered users for more than 3 million automatic requests in 2018. Clouds are also obstacles for our photon to reach the surface. The European-funded project GeoCradle has developed a solar radiation nowcasting system. It has been demonstrated in the Egypt region with the Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy by the provision of the Solar Atlas of Egypt. SENS provides information for existing and future solar power plants. Based on SENS and CAMS data, 20 government areas are targeted for the construction of photovoltaic farms. Our photon can travel everywhere, including cities, where more than half of the Earth's population is living. Shadows from buildings and orography are affecting solar PV or thermal rooftop installations. The European-funded project NextGeos allows computation of rooftop solar energy potential in complex environments. The French SME In Sun We Trust has endorsed this initiative of high-resolution solar CADASTER for urban agglomerations in France. The EuroGeo and GeoVision for Energy Geo initiatives address the Sustainable Development Goals and exploit European infrastructures including CAMS, C3S, EASE emissions, and DIAS. The European-funded project eShape gathers 54 institutes and companies to develop 27 pilots organized in 7 showcases addressing numerous SDGs. 2 energy pilots on solar energy will be developed, 1 extending the SENS application and 1 addressing the photovoltaic high penetration in urban areas.
Moving back to my presentation again. So yes, so this video I think is a good way to introduce or to recap the different facets of solar radiation. Many aspects are dealing with solar energy, but not only. There are also health aspects with the UV radiation, and I will talk a little bit about this at the end of my presentation. To sum up the added value that we have with the Copernicus services, I've prepared this slide to explain that this added value comes from the combination of information about atmospheric composition, as was mentioned in the video. Some atmospheric constituents like water vapor, ozone, but also fine particles in the air, aerosol, will modify the incoming solar radiation by absorbing or scattering part of it. And using models, we combine this information with cloud information from satellite to deliver information about irradiance at the surface, both with the presence of cloud and also in the absence of cloud. And depending on the type of application, one or the other or the two information may be useful. So I suppose you've all tested our ADS, which stands for the Atmosphere Data Store, and completed the little quiz that was there. The Atmosphere Data Store, which is available at the URL which is on this slide, ads.atmosphere.copernicus.eu, is the gateway to the database of solar radiation that is available. Full free open data, as all in Copernicus, as you know now. This database that we have starts in 2004. It is updated continually, lagging behind by a couple of days real time. And you can extract time series for any point of global diffuse direct and direct normal irradiation at different types of temporal resolutions, which depending on what type of application or usage you want to do with the data. So if you did the little exercise, which was to extract a month worth of global horizontal irradiation for Luxembourg City in last June, you have probably got in front of you something similar to this graphics showing the variation of the clear sky and the cloudy sky irradiance. And as you can see, the month of June 2019 was pretty good in Luxembourg City, apart from a few days where you see the orange curve is quite well below the blue one, meaning that the clouds have had attenuation effects. So if you had the opportunity, if you didn't have the opportunity to try out this, please have a go. It should be fairly easy to select the data, to extract a data set, and then you can plot it in a spreadsheet software very easily. So this is just a small example to have you all touch directly the data. As was mentioned in the video, there are lots of applications for solar radiation. One which was mentioned is a French company, which was one of CAMS users. There are actually quite a lot, a growing number, that are interested in providing individuals with a service to help them estimate what energy yield they would get from installing solar radiation rooftop equipment on their home or on the roof of a company. That's so you can access this there. So it's quite useful to help individuals or companies make a first step right from their home to start the process of thinking about solar radiation equipment, and by doing that, it helps develop installation of such capacity. In that case, for France, but there are many other examples. Besides providing data in the form of time series for any point in the world, we have also prepared gridded products, as you can see, for Africa and for Europe. We have in the plan to cover other continents as well, and these may be easy if the type of application that you have is not in a specific location, but you want to look at things at a more regional scale to assess different impacts of solar radiation. So solar energy is one domain, but there are many more. As you know, solar radiation is important input to agriculture. It can be also an important input to looking at health, and for instance, people are using not the solar radiation but the UV radiation of CAMS to look at possible connections between the development of COVID and the level of radiation. So these gridded products, which cover the period of 2005 to 2017 currently, are also available in a convenient gridded form if you want to look at maps. As I mentioned, solar radiation is not only solar energy. A key part of the portfolio of CAMS is about UV radiation, and in particular information about the UV index, which is available and updated every day, twice daily actually, with providing also forecast 5 days in advance. And this, I kept this chart from last April, because at that time there was an ozone hole that developed over the Arctic, which is something which is quite rare. And because of that and a reduced amount of ozone at high latitude, we had predicted, and I was told afterwards that there was a confirmation from the ground-based observation, that UV index in excess of 5 or even 6 over Greenland have been seen, which is quite extraordinary for such high latitude. For lower latitude, of course, this is more typical of spring or summer values. But having that in Greenland at the beginning of April was quite exceptional. So that's also another type of products that you can explore with CAMS and use. There is here the URL to these forecasts, where you can get a link to the numerical data behind all these maps. And to finish this little talk, I want to mention something which is currently ongoing, not here, over the Antarctica, which is the ozone hole. As you know, the ozone hole comes in Antarctica almost every year or every year. Last year was a bit special. There was a very small ozone hole. This year, it's a normal ozone hole, pretty developed. You can see with false color how it looks, or it looked a few days ago over Antarctica. So there is a big ozone hole covering a very large surface, so almost two times Antarctica. And you can see on the plots here, which we update on a daily basis, that the area of the ozone hole is in this type of size. So that's a pretty large ozone hole. All the different other lines are other years. So we are in the middle to top of the ozone hole compared to the last 15 years or so. You can see also here this line, which is very low, which was this exceptional ozone hole of last year, which was really very, very small. It was very small for dynamical meteorological reason, not because the chemical species that deplete ozone had improved, because what we know is that it will take about 40 more years for these ozone depleting substances to come back to pre-industrial values, and for the ozone hole to disappear. So if you're interested in the ozone hole, please have a look on our website, and you will see on a daily basis how the event is developing. Normally, as you can see, the event of ozone hole will come to an end between mid-November and mid-December, unless there is something unexpected. We are doing forecasts 5 days in advance. So if something special comes into play, we will certainly communicate about that. So I think I'm done, and now I will give the floor to my colleague Stijn Vermooten before answering your question after his talk. Thank you very much.
Hello, Europe. Hello, world. Also, a warm welcome from my side. So thank you, Vincent-Henri Pouch, for your talk about CAMS. Now I want to spend 15 minutes of your time to talk about sustainability and renewable energy as provided via our Copernicus climate change service. So it's a second service which is operated by ECMWF. It's where I work. And this is a presentation which is developed by different people, including the director for C3S, Carlo Buontempo, but then also colleagues from the World Energy and Meteorology Council, Alberto Toccoli and Kit Reckley. So as Vincent-Henri, I would like to start with a small video to warm up you all. So maybe the colleagues can start the video. And again, you can sit back, relax, and have a look at what we have provided, or what we have shooted last year.
Well, energy is facing an important transition because on one side we know that the demand profile of different countries is changing because the temperature is going up, but also the energy mix that underpins the provision of energy is also changing. So away from fossil fuel and nuclear up to a certain extent, and a very marked increase in renewables. This means that the volatility of the energy production is also increasing. So climate information is becoming more and more important for the energy sector.
We are developing an operational service for the energy users because there is an increasing demand for products like seasonal forecast, climate projections.
What we are providing is high quality data that can be fed into an energy demand model, can be passed to decision makers in the energy sector to ensure that the balance between demand and production is always met.
So we first take care of producing the best climate indicators we can, like solar radiation, wind speed, and mean sea level pressure, and temperature and precipitation. And then we convert all these variables into things that are useful for the energy sectors.
In C3S we have been involved in the last 3 years, first in the development of one of the proof of concept for the energy sector. In that contract we contributed by developing the energy models, which simply consist in translating the climate information into energy variables.
So C3S has been really a game changer in the climate area because it allowed us to access a huge amount of data through one portal with an easy way to collect the data and then also have tools that can be used to analyze, assess the data.
So, of course, our company will benefit of the data because, as I just said, we need a lot of information both about the past and about the future.
Many users in the energy sector will benefit from all these products that we are producing now.
Climate information has no use until you make decisions based on it.
So this nice video brings me to my first slide, and I want to take you all back to, in fact, the challenge. So the challenge by which energy providers are faced is, in the end, what you need to do is to make sure that your supply of energy matches the demand. And of course, can we go to the slide, please? Next one. Yes. So the challenge is to match, in fact, the supply of energy with the demand. And with a changing climate and a variable climate, of course, we need to take both elements into account. And it has an impact on both aspects, both on the supply, because we have, as illustrated in the video, an increasing share of power supply coming from variable energy sources from renewable sources, so that's a component. But also on the demand side, we see that there is also a changing demand because of climate changes in the long run. So there's a need for information, there's a need for climate information. And then when we go to the next slide, I'll show you how Copernicus Climate Change Service provide answers to this challenge. So the backbone of the Copernicus Climate Change Service is the Climate Data Store. And you see the link at the bottom. So I invite everyone to go there and to have a look. And what the Climate Data Store provides is, in fact, it's a freely available data store, and it functions as a one-stop shop to explore climate data. So you can find data about the past, the present, and the future. This includes climate variables, which in fact are relevant for the energy sector. We think about air temperature, precipitation, solar radiation, cloudiness and sunshine hours, wind speed, and others. And all this is easily accessible via this one single store. And this is quite unique. a lot of information has been made available over the years, but what we have been doing now since 2018 is to provide all this information in one place. And it's not only about the data, it also it's quality assured, so you also know about uncertainty margins. It comes with documents, but we also provide user support, so it's a service. It comes with a team who can help you to navigate through this through the data, and we have tools and workflows. So, and by allowing this this access to petabytes of data, in fact, people can transfer it into kilobytes of useful information. It's what you also saw in the last person in the video. There's a clear, it only becomes valuable if it's used in decision making. So, but let me first go to the data which is made available in the climate data store. And this is illustrated in the next slide. So the main portfolio which we make available in the climate data store is data about the past, the present, and the future of climate data and information. So the first element is data about the past. This is what we call reanalysis data. And now we have a product called ERA5, and it's the 5th generation of our ECMWF reanalysis, which provides very detailed data about the past global climate and weather. So currently we go back to the year 1979. We aim to go back to the year 1950 to provide information onwards from 1950. The resolution is about 31 kilometers, but we also have a product called ERA5 Land, which goes back to 81, so not that long, but with a much better resolution up to 9 kilometers. So it's a very important product because by knowing about the past, you can use it as a base to make projections for the future. And there's a second element on which we provide access. These are the climate projections. Climate projections are derived, in fact, from a large number of experiments which have been computed in scope of the Coupled Model in Comparison project, CMIP. At the moment, so it's a big exercise which is run every 5 years, more or less. And now we are at CMIP 6. And CMIP data is used extensively, in fact, by the UN in the IPCC assessment reports, which was, for example, the base of the crucial input, what we all know, the climate, the Paris Climate Agreement of 2016. With climate projections, in fact, we do projections up to 100 years, so it's very long term. So we can we have information up to the year 2100. What you will see in climate projections, if you look into this data, we work with different concentration pathways, representative concentration pathways, RCP scenarios, which in fact reflect future climate forcing, or simulations representing different future socio-economic scenarios. So you see how the concentration change depending on those elements. So it's a second important element, which is crucial when you want to make decisions based on climate-related information. A third product which I would like to emphasize is our seasonal forecast data and products. C3S provides a multi-system, so it's an ensemble of different seasonal forecasts, which are provided by 5 different weather centers. And what we do is we collect them, we process them, and we combine them into user-relevant applications. And what we do with the seasonal forecast is, in fact, give forecasts up to 6 months ahead. So it's a third element. And in the next slide, I would like to give you an illustration what we can do, for example, with the seasonal forecast. So let's assume that you're an energy provider, you work in the energy sector, and you need to do planning. You need to plan for the future. An element which may be relevant is to know what to expect in the 6 upcoming months, and to have some kind of early warnings, which is relevant for your business. Well, our seasonal forecast can provide some information. So on one side, you have, for example, temperature forecast, which anticipate how much energy will be needed for heating or cooling buildings. Another element parameter which we provide is forecast of wind speed, solar energy, and precipitation, which helps to predict or helps the industry to predict how much renewable energy can be supplied by solar plants, wind farms, and hydroelectric dams. So it's a second example. And in fact, the seasonal climate forecast, you can't compare them with weather forecasts. So it's not something you can use on a specific day in a specific location. You can't predict whether there will be a white Christmas based on this, but it gives an indication. It gives an indication about the trends over the next 6 months for a certain region consisting of different countries. And it's still useful because you can derive some mean element, the averages out of it. You can indicate some or derive some uncertainty out of this and probabilities, and you can look up to 6 months ahead. So depending on the accuracy and what we call in our sector the skill of the seasonal forecast, you can use it for smart decision making and to limit, in fact, potential risks. So that's an example of how our data is used in real life planning for the energy sector. Next slide, please. But of course, C3S is more than just data. So what makes us more than just a provider of climate data? In fact, what we do in C3S, in our climate, in our Copernicus climate change service, is to combine, in fact, these climate data and products with sector-specific data. And this helps us to derive climate impact indicators, tools, demonstrators, which are used to serve the needs of, in this case, the energy sector. So on one side, you have the climate variables, which you see on the left, but on the right, you also need some energy indicators. So you need to know the electricity demand, wind power production, photovoltaic production, and hydro production. Also on these, you need indicators, and you need to mix both to make information which is relevant for the sector. To do this, of course, as climate specialists or meteorologists, we need to rely on experts. So that's also a component which we really embrace. We work with people of the World Meteorology and Energy and Meteorology Council, CA, Météo France, EDF. It's a private company, but also colleagues from the Met Office and Armin. They all contribute to this type of thing. So it's really a collaborative effort together with sector specialists and with people who know how to transfer this data into relevant things for the sector. Then if we go to the next slide, this illustrates, so I explained about the climate data store. We have tools and workflows, and this is what I want to present in my next slides. An example of such a demonstrator which has been developed by the sector. Next slide, please. So here you have an illustration of the C3S Energy Demonstrator. It has been developed by the World Energy and Meteorology Council. So it was funded by us. And it gives a very nice illustration about how trends can be anticipated and how things can be mixed with the demand of energy, supply of energy, as well as the climate variables. At the moment, you can use or you can have a look at the beta version, which is which you can access from the website as indicated at the bottom of the presentation you see now. But very soon, probably we have a first version by Easter ready and a final version by June next year. This demonstrator, this is a typical demonstrator which will also be embedded in our climate data store and which can be accessed from that point of view. And then again, it will come with the documentation, it will come with source codes, and it will come with the required use support. So this is again an illustration that it's on one side we have the data, we have the knowledge from the sector, and then based on this, we develop tools. Just to give an illustration, this tool has been developed with more or less 30 different energy users or stakeholders to come up with something which is really tailored to their needs. So this brings me to my last slides, and then it's the end of my presentation, and it's about applications. So I already mentioned that we transfer petabytes of data into kilobytes of useful information. There's a lot of things which we do together. So within the climate, within Copernicus, we work on a lot of things. But of course, what's crucial is that, in fact, we provide information which can also be combined, can used, by companies, by research institutes, by SMEs, and maybe some of you are also active in this domain, by students. And I want to give this application as an example. And in fact, this is also a crucial element of the Copernicus program. It's not only about the service, but it's also to make sure that there is an uptake by the downstream sector, as we call it, by those companies who transferred, who make business out of this, to change it into something useful. And Jill, in the last presentation, will give a nice example of this with climate scale, for example. So this brings me to my final slide now, and this is an example of an application. Those of you who already have started looking into my material, so in the talk I gave, but also the quiz and the material which we developed for you, you should recognize this slide. So it's a very nice application which is based on our data for the purpose of pupils, so for educational subjects, and it's what makes it attractive, that it's also very useful, of course, for MOOCs like this. So I really hope that you enjoyed it. I really hope that you learned something from it, and I wish you lots of success for the rest of the MOOC. And I will take some questions together with Vincent Henry when the moderator indicates it's fine.
Thanks a lot, Stein, and thanks a lot, Vincent Henry, as well, for your presentations. We're gonna now launch the Q&A session. Yeah, the moderation team will publish the different question on the screen, so feel free to ask.
The question and answer mode has been enabled.
Yeah. So we are now waiting for the first questions, and we will then publish them on the screen. No questions so far.
Vincent Henry, maybe this is a question for you.
Yes, I can take this one. So the resolution of the solar, so for the product that is gridded, I don't remember exactly on top of my mind. Let me see if I got that. Yes, it's 0.2 degrees, so it's about 20 kilometer resolution. So in terms of gridded data, for the moment we only did one data set for Europe and one data set for Africa. But the data is also available as time series, and there the time series are available anywhere in the world in terms of cloud-free data. But for the cloudy data, we are limited currently to the viewing the field of view of Meteosat second generation, which covers Africa and Europe. but we are extending to America and to Asia with the GOES geostationary and the Imawari on the other side. So we expect in the next few years to have global coverage also for the clouds. In terms of gridded data set, that's something that we could that we could develop if there is a need. No problem.
I noticed that there was a question about ASEM, European Climate Energy Mixes Demonstrator. It's a beta version. It's accessible, so I have it open here. But you best go via Mozilla Firefox. So that's an element to take into account. So it's the moment it will become available in the climate data store, it will these type of things won't be there. But if you use Firefox, it should work. Indeed. So then the next question is the education demo during the tutorials as displayed during the second last slide is only for Europe. Correct. That's correct. Therefore, we need to enter into the main database to obtain information for other countries. Well, the education demonstrator, as the word says, demonstrator, it's a pure demonstrator of the potential use of what the climate change energy sector application can develop. And on purpose, we said, well, let's select a region to demonstrate this. It's the purpose of this education demonstrator is not to have it as a functional tool for normal processes, although you can learn a lot out of it, of course. If you're interested at global level, then of course it's our global products which will become available on the climate data store, which are much more relevant, and there it will be more a global scope in the end. So
maybe I can take this one, which is fairly complicated. We need quite a long time to respond fully. As you know, forecasting weather is based on observations and on numerical models that are representation in terms of physical mathematical formulas of what we know of the physics of the atmosphere. All these models have been developed and evaluated against observation in the current climate. So if the climate is changing a lot, in principle, the range of application of some aspects of this model could change. Now, I think it's in terms of forecasting weather, the time scale is such that it's not really impacting the capacity. And when I say forecasting weather, it is for the next days or for the medium range, that is 5 days to 2 weeks or 3 weeks. There, I think even if we have trained these models, we have developed these models in a climate which is becoming different. It's not enough really to affect the capacity of forecasting the weather. I think that the big challenge for forecasting are more the predictions at the scale of the next decade, or the prediction at the scale of the end of the century. That's where very big changes in terms of greenhouse gases, in terms of land surfaces may or may not happen depending on the measures that will be taken, and that's where the predictions are more uncertain. But for forecasting the weather, the impact of climate change is not that big, even if we see more frequent droughts or impact of or more severe events. These are within the scope of what our models can do. and I don't think we can say that climate change has been affecting the skill of weather forecasting. But that's, yeah, I don't want to take more time about that, but that's a very interesting question that would require much more to really elaborate on all the aspects.
Is it possible to add non-European countries to the CDS demonstrator, for example, Ukraine? What is an algorithm for this procedure? It's a static, the C3S education demonstrator is a static tool. It's not meant for other people to update and to upgrade. We may decide so, and we may decide to upgrade it, or the colleagues of the World Energy and Meteorology Council may decide in scope of another activity, of course. And then it's a matter of doing this ourselves. Of course, if the demand is so high that you want to do this, okay, it's possible. For the time being, and then I have to repeat a little bit what I already answered, it's really an education demonstrator. It's meant for pupils to learn to work with climate data, to see how they need to combine it with energy demand, how to do the interpretation of trends, how to look into graphs and things like this. So that's the real purpose of this whole thing, and especially now with the previous lockdown and the current lockdown, it has been proven as a very nice education tool for teachers to train people in geography classes, for example, on particular societal issues.
Adil, yes, you would like to understand the impact of meteorology on air pollution. It's a very interesting study. So you're using the CAMS neural products, so the variables. What meteorology product can I use to understand the variation of pollution? You have a number of options. As maybe you know, ECMWF weather forecasts are not free and open. They are not part of Copernicus. However, when they are no longer a forecast, but they are in the past, they are available. So you can access for a recent past period the meteorological variables that go with the chemical variables like surface winds, like the height of the planetary boundary layer, like the clouds, so that you can study and correlate the concentrations at the surface with the weather parameter. So that's one option. Another option is to use the ERA5 reanalysis, which is also running with a few days of delay. So you will have also air pollution. But in general, you could use any other sort of meteorological forecast or analysis product to go with the CAMS air pollution. But yeah, if you can wait for a few days, so not doing that in forecast mode, but looking, for instance, at what happened in the past week, you can access to the weather data, and you can do that from the CAMS website. If you go to the top with user support, you can ask the question, and my colleague will point you to how to get to the data. So I don't know for this question. So the solar radiation predictions are, I think, not yet part of the portfolio. Solar radiation is about the past, so we use the past in the operational portfolio. Within CAMS, we are thinking of developing short-term forecasts for solar radiation. So in the next few days, because there is user demand for that, because the price of energy can depend on the availability of energy, and having forecast of solar radiation over the next day or a few days is interesting. For seasonal forecast of solar radiation, it becomes really complex. Forecasting clouds beyond a few days is really tricky. So I don't think the current skill of the systems is enough, but maybe it's worth discussing the type of needs that you have about long-term prediction of solar radiation.
What criteria have been used when displaying the predefined regions, subdivisions in the C3S education demonstrator? To be honest, I don't know. It has been developed by a contractor to illustrate the potential use of our data for educational purposes. Of course, when you do something like this, the attractiveness of the tool, the simplicity of the tool are really crucial things, because the educational element is there. So please don't see this education demonstrator as the operational tool which is used also for energy producers and suppliers. For this, we are developing much better databases and applications, and it's a matter of waiting. Well, 6 to 10 months to have this available, but by June next year it should be really all be available on the climate data store. So sorry, I can't provide more details on this question. That's also an interesting one.
Okay, maybe I can take this one. So this is a very detailed question. So you mentioned spreadsheet. So it's the end product. Oh, I have an echo. I don't know what's going on. So in the CDS or the ADS, you have tabs next to where you can get the data, which contain documentation. So you can see how each of the products is done. And even more on the climate data store, not yet on the ADS, we have just opened a new tab, which is called Evaluation and Quality Control. And from there, you have lots of detail, which describe very transparently what is the maturity of each of the products, the different data streams. I don't know what's going on. I'm hearing myself twice. So that's so that you can have a full understanding of what each data source brought to the product, and how this compares to the final product. So the answer is really please go to the CDS and ADS. Look at the documentation tab next to each of the data set, where the methodology, the inputs, etc., are listed. And for the CDS, you have now this new evaluation and quality control tab, which you can explore to respond fully to your question.
Vincent, do you also take this one?
Yes, I can answer. It's still early days in terms of forecast, but some of our users through the company Transvalor are exploring using forecast for managing production or for detecting potential issues with the production in terms of solar radiation. Yeah, it exists. It's more in exploratory mode for the moment, but there is lots of interest for having forecast data also part of the system and the optimization of production or of sale of energy.
Hello, if wind speed varies due to climate change, will the windmills be transferred to the new indicated sites? What we provide is climate information and data, and we combine it with also sector relevant data. The way this data is used for decision making depends on various elements. It's economic, it's investment needs and things like this. So it's up to the operators of these sites to decide whether a change is relevant or not. You will, the next presenter, Gil Liscano, he is an expert in the wind energy sector. And maybe you can ask him more information, so really stay tuned for his presentation. Maybe he can provide more information on this question. But the key element, what I want to say is, in the end, what we provide is input for other people to make a decision, and it's up to the decision maker to combine this data or this knowledge with socioeconomic and other elements, operational elements, to make a decision in the end. Do you think that climate change can be of interest for financial organizations? Of course. So we also provide information for the banking sectors, for investment decisions, for asset management, and we work also on specific applications to see how we can serve them in specific needs. And often, on one side, it's to support them in investment plans. For example, somebody wants to invest in certain development, which is an investment which runs for example, 30, 40, 50 years, and the bank needs to decide, will I give this person the money or not? And will the return on investment, in fact, change depending on climate? Think about agriculture, think about infrastructure which is prone to extreme climate. Think about things at coastal zones, and they take it more and more into account. So for sure, it's very relevant information. Of course, it's a process like with many other things, and it's the same for the insurance sector. We are in constant discussion with these sectors to see how our data is really useful as such for their needs. Sometimes it's a matter of resolution, sometimes it's a matter of frequency, sometimes it's a matter of how we present our data, the formats, which makes the data not always useful directly as needed. And that's again why we have companies, researchers, SMEs who are developing tools and applications who transfer our data for bias correction, for downscaling, for combining this data with other elements to derive solutions for sectors, including the financial sector. And again, the company which will present after us, Climate Scale, also provides services to financial sectors, to the financial sector.
Yes, the answer whether ECMWF provides meteorological data for modeling, yes. The prime function of ECMWF is to provide weather forecasts. The only limitation is that these weather forecasts are not full, free and open at present. However, the Council of ECMWF has decided that in the course of the next 5 years, all the data produced by our organization will be free and open to everyone. So this is coming. However, if you're not interested in the forecast, but you want to model dispersion about past event or recent past event, the data is available for free, so no need for third party. The part which is currently not free is the forecast part, where there is a lot of business, and that's why this is not free and open. At the same time, open data is progressing, and our organization is embracing this move within a time frame of 5 years. Yeah.
Your answers. If there are any other questions that have not been answered yet, feel free to post them on the forum on Moodle. And now we're going to go on with the presentation of Jill. So if you can activate your micro and camera. In the meantime, thanks a lot, Henri and Stein. Okay, perfect.
Yes, I'm here. I was listening. Very interesting questions. That's some of one I want to answer. So my name is Jules Cano. I'm here to give you an illustration of 2 projects that take advantage of the data that Steen and Vincent Henri have presented. Not all of the data that CDS, that Copernicus is providing, are used by this project, but some of them are the key elements of the technology of this project. These are 2 companies linking together that use information from Copernicus Climate Services to drive modeling chains that at the end add value on top of the data that Copernicus provides, and this value is basically the business model of these companies. These are 2 small companies. One is already an established company with more than 10 years in the market, which is Vortex, and the other one is a new company that is a spin-off of Vortex that has been as well receive support from Copernicus through a specific program that tries to analyze the added value of the data that Copernicus provides for different applications. And I'm gonna tell you the story of the technology of those both companies. So at the end, what we want is to increase the resolution of the climate data that Copernicus offers and adapt this information for 2 specific applications. Vortex is their application area is the wind industry, while climate scale is focusing on understanding the physical risk of climate change and provide this information for different sectors. Finance is probably one of the sectors that at the moment is demanding more information on climate change, and so they can use this information to do much more elaborate analysis. So Vortex and Climate Scale offers an online tool to access this actionable information. So basically, it's climate information that has been processed, and in the way that users get the data and what they actually need for taking actions or for taking decisions. The key elements of both companies is to increase the resolution. I saw a message. Everything is okay? Coming here. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Okay, say that my internet connection is not going very well. So I hope you're listening what I am saying. So both companies, Climate Scale, use this methodology that increases the resolution of the data using an on-demand technology. Basically, we run a model once the client requested, and we use the state-of-the-art in the weather and climate modeling technology. So this is an example of a product that Vortex provides, that is basically a high-resolution map of the distribution of wind speed for a particular area where developers are analyzing the conditions to develop a wind farm. This is a project, for instance, in Africa. So basically, Vortex provides this wind resource information based on our cloud computing modeling services. So everything is in the cloud, and our aim is to deliver this high-quality wind resource information in the format and with the granularity and resolution that the end user needs. So the wind analyst, the project developer, the consultant, the finance institution that needs to evaluate the feasibility of this project. Obviously, we cannot model the complete world with a resolution of 100 meters. That's why we only model the wind conditions for the regions that the client wants. And this is done on demand. So the client connects to our interface and requests the data for a particular regions, and then they will receive the data after 1 or 2 days. So this is a very cost-effective combination of, from one side, the best of the climate data that is provided by Copernicus, and an engine that add value by downscaling, but increasing the resolution of the data we provide. So this is an example of a snapshot of a request that we have received from a particular site in the world. This is for a particular month where we gather all this information. So these are different users. They don't need to be where you see the black points, but they are requesting information to develop projects in different areas of the world. And these are the points that they are selecting in our interface. So, and at the end, what you get, as I say, is this very high resolution information of the spatial distribution of wind conditions and everything in a format that is understood by the wind specialist. So we provide very high resolution information at hourly and 10 minutes. So this is also as important as increasing the spatial resolution, is increasing the time granularity. And then we provide the wind conditions, wind speed, the direction, and also other more specific variables like the intensity of turbulence, the stability, the wind direction, the change of direction with high. So there is quite the air density. So this is information that is needed to assess the feasibility of a project, to compute and to transform wind speed into energy. That at the end is what is going to be the key element to finance the project. So we allow to work with specific clients. We have already do very large scale projects. For instance, we work with the World Bank to provide a global layer, not at 100 meter resolution, but at 3 kilometer resolution, based on ERA 5. That is one of the latest Copernicus products. So that is the reanalysis. That is the best representation of the historic of the atmosphere over the last 40 years, and even more, because soon it's going to be updated to cover until mid of to 1950 to today. So it's an amazing database to have information of the historical conditions of the atmosphere. So we use ERA 5, and we don't scale with our model up to 3 kilometers, and then we process this information, and this is what has been handed to the World Bank to build a web interface that is called the Global Wind Atlas, where people can access this information freely. The idea, obviously, is to use climate data from Copernicus, use our weather model, and then package all this information in different formats. So, and different products. So these products depends on the project maturity of the development. They will be specific for having just a screening of wind conditions, and also the long-term time series, so users can scale the wind conditions that they have measured from one particular year to extend it to 20 years, so they have an evaluation of how winds are going to change over the last 20 years, and much more specific products that I'm not going to go into detail. So these are basically the modeling, the downscaling and modeling change. Basically, we use ERA 5, and we then use this information to drive a weather model. Our weather model is called WRF. It's an open source and community model that has been employed by many institutions in the academia and the private sector, so it's a reference. So at the end, with this combination of ERA5 and the weather model, we are able to provide time series maps of high resolution of wind conditions that spans at least the last 20 years. That is the minimum required to assess the wind resource conditions for the project. So this was Vortex. Vortex has been in the market for 10 years. It has been the Vortex models has been a success because the company is now one of the leading in this specific niche, that is the wind resource modeling conditions within the wind industry. And with the idea and the business model of Vortex, we decided 2 years ago, or 1.5 years ago, to develop a new project. But instead of looking to the past and to downscale the historical atmospheric conditions to obtain high resolution information of the wind conditions for the wind industry, we decided to look to the future. So our aim is to provide a similar product, but using the climate projections that Estin mentioned in his presentation. So basically to add another layer of information in top of the different projections that the reference institutions are building to understand the role of the climate change and how the climate will be in the future. So for that, basically what we're going to use is replace ERA5 by this climate projection of the future that is span this century. And we are going to plug this data to drive our model, so we are able to assess the climate impact of the climate change with a higher resolution. So we can provide this information for people that need to take decisions and need to feed this information in different impact model, like a flood assessment model, a water stress model, agricultural models, or energy models, or do anything, finance risk assessments of the different assets that are affected by this climate change impact. So obviously the why of climate scale is clear. Climate change is something global. It's affecting every location. The impact is although it's global, has a different strength depending on the variable, depending on the conditions, and the climate model that we are using are excellent tools to portray the trends globally. But when we want to understand what is happening at the local scale, is where the coarse resolution of this model becomes a limitation. So that's why we aim to transform this information in something that has much more local meaning, so the user can use this information for their decisions, especially using this information for their assets. So we already been in the market for 6 months. We are already working with different clients and projects. Also, thanks to the Copernicus use case program, we were able to test and have a period to assess with the potential users and clients how to design our post-processing and packaging of the data we provide, so they are much more easy to use for them, and they have the information that they're required. So we, as in Vortex, we have packaged our information into different products. This is one to the main product, that is basically maps and series. Maps will provide you to the users and raster or layers of information of the change of different variables: temperature, precipitation, wind speed, solar radiation, and then different metrics that assess the acute changes, for instance, in streams, for instance, storminess, heat waves, cold spells, etc. And time series is for the users that need data to drive their model. So what we are providing to them are time series adapted for the location where they want to do with hourly sampling, which is very excellent. So these are the 2 products that we provide to the users, the series and the maps. There are other products, but I'm not going to go into all the details of the products. So this is In general, a summary of our technology in climate scale use the vortex modeling technology, so the capability to use this weather model, WRF model, on demand on a cloud system. So we use this as an engine, but we are employing other data to drive this weather model. In this case, we use CMIP5 data, and soon we will start testing CMIP6. We get this data from the Copernicus CS. We use all the API that Copernicus has enabled, so we can download a large amount of data without. So it's the downloading and retrieving of the data is automatic. And we also use, it's very important, ERA5 data, because it's very important that we bias correct our estimation, and that's why ERA5 plays a role still in our modeling chain that is looking to the future. But we need to have some kind of a proxy of the observation of the past to calibrate the result. So, in summary, both climate scale and vortex offer us user-friendly access to high-resolution information. Climate scale, in particularly, offer this access to climate change data, that is to information about the different scenarios that the scientific community has built to assess the possible futures of the climate. And with this information, we aim to feed people needing to assess the risk of the climate change for different applications. So vortex and climate scales relies in C3S. So without 3CS, we will have an issue. So it's very important that the system that the CDS and the access to the data is a very robust and stable platform. That has been the case for the many years that we've been employing this data, specifically the vortex. Climate scale basically is aiming to assess, as I said, to provide not only the climate data, but also to guide the users in how to get the best of this information. So here I have just to finish my presentation, and before going into your questions, that I see that there are many things going on. I don't know if it's a question for me, but these are examples of the layers and the interface to the data that you can get through our platform. So basically, you get to the platform, you log, and you create an account. It's free, and then you can retrieve layers. Obviously, there is one part of the platform that is free, and at some point when you request the data is when the business starts, and when you will obviously this is a paid product, so people need to get in touch with us and then get access to this data as a service. So these are examples for different versions, and here is Texas for different variables. Just I don't want to go much in detail because I think it's better to leave time for the questions. But this is basically what we are aiming to provide. This is only the maps, but there are other products like the time series, another more specific products that are the report that I haven't mentioned, but which are really designed to work with the finance sector, for instance. So if you want to get more information, feel free to send me an email or contact us via LinkedIn, and we will, myself and my colleagues, we will be very happy to answer any question you have. In the meanwhile, we have still a few minutes to discuss or to go through the questions you might want. So this question is not for me. I think it's for my colleagues. Your web application generates requests for Copernicus for image data loads. Do they charge you as Google Maps app is doing? Well, we access data from Copernicus using the API that allow us to get the data not as image, but as a specific format that is employed in climatology, that are GRIP files and not CDF files. It is different format. And as Steen mentioned, Copernicus data are free, so there is no charge in using the API or the services from Copernicus. Which tool algorithm? This is a question from Luigi. Luigi wants to know which tools algorithm do you use to perform your job? So we, as I say, we use a weather model. The weather model is a similar model as the one we use, the one that's employed for weather forecast. So the one that the weather information that you receive to see what's gonna happen in the next hours or days. This WRF is a similar model that is employed for that. So this is our downscaling engine, this weather model. Thanks a lot for your presentation, Pedro Freitas. Bon dia. It's possible to obtain those type of historical data sets from all around the globe, or there are some limitations due to lack of historical observation in order to calibrate accurately the model for some parts of the world. We use data, we provide data globally because all the data we use are global. So the projection of the future are global, and so for that we don't have restrictions. And the use of the ERA 5 data that are the reanalysis data, which is, as I said, is the best reconstruction of the climate of the past, and the ERA 5 includes a massive amount of observed information. These ERA 5 data are global, so we are not restricted to a particular region. We can provide the data from any location. Klaus wants to know, is Climate Scale and Vortex available to make a strategic alliance with other companies to develop works? Well, this is a very obviously we have been working with different users and clients that want to use our technology to develop a more customized solution. And yes, we've been working with different users and clients to do something else that is available on the interface. So we are open to this kind of this customized solution. Abigail, she wants to know the windy data generated, can it be used in locust prediction, especially in Africa? Well, this year is a very important issue, no? That maybe has been hidden by the pandemic, but if something has been very severe in East Africa has been this locust epidemic. Our data, wind data, is very high resolution. It can be used for other applications than wind, but I would say that if you want to do some kind of analysis for this particular application, I would recommend you to go directly and get the data from Copernicus and got the winds from ERA 5, because for this application you don't need to go to the level of the details that we provide for the wind industry. And I think you will, no, I'm pretty sure you will get very accurate information on wind speed, directions, to do any historical analysis that might give you some insights of how to predict the locust. On top of that, as Steen mentioned, Copernicus provide a seasonal forecast system that provides you information on wind, another variable that might be also important in triggering this locust plague. So I think there is a huge potential in combining historical data from ERA 5 and observation of the locust plug with this seasonal forecast. I think it would be actually a very interesting business if you to develop. Is there anything else? No more questions? So
questions? Maybe we have the last one that you can answer.
So Luigi, again, what kind of computing skills are needed in your company to do your work? Well, you need to have a balance of expertise in working with climate information, climate data, and then, for instance, working with being able to working with large databases, so working with terabytes of data. It's very important. For that, you need to be very comfortable in working with Linux and different tools that are and software that are basically running in Linux. And then it's important that for us to master the weather model, so we also need to have some expertise in working with climate and regional atmospheric models. But as important as the IT and expertise in the technical part is also there are other expertise, like for instance in communications today. There are many skills that are required in our company.
Thanks a lot, Jill, for your presentation as well as your answers. If there are any questions that hasn't been answered yet, feel free to post them on the forum. And we wish you a nice day, evening, afternoon, wherever you might be. And we hope to see you for the next module and our next webinar that will take place on next Thursday as well. Goodbye.